I'm just an honest, ordinary beta. To pay off my brother's gambling debts. I was sold to the wealthiest family in the city to work as a housekeeper. My only job was to serve their pampered young alpha master. Not only did I have to take care of his daily needs, I also had to meet his physical demands. 1. The person in bed had his face buried deep into the pillow. I couldn't see his expression. Putting down the suppressant in my hand, I gently patted his shoulder. Calvin, are you feeling any better? He sat up and slapped my hand away hard, his face flushed unnaturally red. Get lost. Who said you could touch me? Madam, she's really worried about you. She asked me to bring the suppressant to help you through this, it's your first heat, after all. He cut me off roughly, his hand shooting out like a claw, gripping my wrist tightly. I don't need a suppressant. Either you get out, or... His eyes slowly scanned my face, then drifted downward, stopping at my waist. That look felt like a hook tearing through my clothes, piercing straight into my skin. I couldn't help but tremble all over. Or you get on your knees and take off your clothes. The room went dead silent. Only the soft sound of fabric rustling and falling to the floor remained. Calvin reached out, grabbing my chin and forcing me to look up, locking eyes with him. This is the choice you made. I shut my eyes. A single tear slipped from the corner. It was wiped away roughly, followed by warm lips and tongue, carrying a faint citrus scent. 2. I didn't like that scent. Before I turned 10, I lived in a shanty town on the outskirts of City C. Every day, I walked nearly an hour to go to a slightly better school in a neighboring district. And spent the rest of the time collecting scraps and delivering newspapers. Doing everything I could just to survive alone in the slums. On the day the government arranged genetic testing for all 10-year-olds, my biological parents showed up. They lived in the district where I went to school, an average working-class family, self-sufficient. I thought I was finally going to escape the filth and mud of my past. The next day, a guy with a delicate face but a sluggish air about him appeared in front of me. He said he was my older brother. He held my chin, examining me from side to side, took a drag from his cigarette, then pried open my mouth to look inside. Then I heard him chuckle. Not bad. You'll do, I guess. He casually handed me an orange. The scent was fresh and sweet, almost too tempting. As I carefully swallowed the last segment, still savoring the flavor, he loaded me into a long black car. Inside sat a few other kids about my age, all looking just as lost. I looked back, hoping to catch a glimpse of my brother through the car window. He'd already turned and walked into his apartment building, not even sparing me a glance. I crushed the orange peel in my hand until it was mush. I was sent to a luxurious, faraway mansion I'd never seen before. A stone-faced man in a black suit led us in, lining us up as we entered the basement. Then came the bathing, the health check, and the exams. Maybe I was lucky. I was selected to become the personal study companion of the estate owner's only son, Calvin. The young master had been spoiled since birth. His mother, afraid of raising a child too soft, came up with an idea. She brought in kids slightly older than him, someone to study with, someone to play with. When the young master did well, I clapped and cheered. When he made mistakes, I knelt and took the punishment. The first time I was punished was because he stayed up late gaming. The next day, during tutoring, Calvin yawned. The once kind butler pinned me to the ground and slapped me until my face swelled. That night, Calvin sneaked into my room, crying quietly. I'm sorry, brother Casper. I promise I'll get back at them for you. What he meant by revenge was pulling harmless pranks on the unsuspecting butler. I shook my head gently. It's okay, young master. Just listen to madam from now on, and I won't get hurt again. Back then, he used to call me brother. Now, he only looks at me with contempt, like I'm a spineless dog. 3. At school, I was always by Calvin's side, carrying his backpack, bringing him lunch, holding his umbrella. When we entered middle school and he got into sports, I'd follow him to the sun-scorched court and hand him an opened water bottle the moment he stepped off the field. This routine continued until I finished the college entrance exams. Calvin had already been arranged to study abroad. After evening classes, I'd rush home to tidy up his room. Every morning, I'd get up before dawn while he was still asleep. That day, it poured. I thought the driver would come pick me up. After all, the rain was so heavy it had already flooded over my ankles, and it was impossible to use an umbrella. Madam had instructed me to pose as their adopted son in public. So I assumed the driver would come. I waited until nearly 10, and the rain still hadn't stopped. I ended up running all the way back in the downpour. My umbrella had been torn open by the wind, full of holes. Calvin's mother sat on the sofa, sipping tea as she listened to the butler report on all matters big and small around the estate. When she saw me dash in, drenched head to toe, she barely lifted her eyes. The butler said, "Why aren't you heading to your room already? Look at this muddy mess on the floor, clean it up when you're done." I nodded and hurried off to shower and change into dry clothes. When I came back out to clean up the water at the entrance, the living room was already empty. I knelt on the floor, using a towel to soak up every bit of water. Calvin came up from the underground garage by elevator, completely dry, like there hadn't been a storm outside at all. He frowned when he saw me crouched on the floor. "What are you doing down there?" I explained, and he nodded absent-mindedly while checking his phone, then rushed back to his room. After finishing the cleaning, I went upstairs and into my room. As soon as I closed the door banged loudly. Calvin stood there, clearly annoyed. "What's this? Why isn't the bed made?" I had forgotten. It was already past 11. Calvin stood behind me like some taskmaster inspecting his servant. I unfolded the silk bedding and climbed onto the bed to smooth it out. Suddenly I felt heat behind me. Calvin had come up close. He placed a hand on my lower back and gave it a gentle squeeze. I felt uneasy. "Calvin, step back. The bed's done. You should sleep now." He seemed lost in thought, muttering under his breath. Didn't know a beta's waist could be that slim. "What did you say?" I didn't catch it. Nothing. "Oh right, tomorrow's the weekend. There's a party. You should come." I nodded. If I could go back and warn my 19-year-old self, I'd do everything I could to stop him from going. Because at that party, everything changed. 4. There weren't many people at the party. I followed behind Calvin, holding a glass of champagne. His mother had someone prepare a few tailored suits for me, just for occasions like this where I needed to accompany him. Even though Calvin was only 18, his manners and presence were impeccable. His features were striking, cool and elegant. Standing among other elite young men, he looked like a crane among a flock of birds, impossible to miss. Some of them cast glances in my direction and chuckled behind their hands. A man with especially strong presence leaned toward Calvin and said something. Calvin then turned to look at me, his gaze tinged with anger. I had no idea why. I looked myself over. I was properly dressed, nothing out of place. So I backed into the shadows of the banquet hall, distancing myself from the young masters and standing near the waitstaff. I didn't want to stir up trouble. I figured I'd ask Calvin later if I'd embarrassed him somehow. Bored, I struck up a quiet conversation with a male server who was waiting to top off the guests' wine. This job paid 500 yuan a day, pretty good money. They required beta males, basic medical training, and foreign language skills. As I sipped the amber-colored champagne, I thought I might try this part-time gig once I entered university. Just then, someone lost their grip on a glass, and clear liquid spilled all over me, staining my light gray suit. Someone led me to a nearby lounge where a change of clothes had been prepared. I thanked them and took off my jacket, only to realize my shirt was soaked too. I had no choice but to take that off as well. I'd just finished unbuttoning my shirt and was about to take it off when someone unexpectedly entered the room. I recognized him. It was Hunter, the host of the party. He was 6 or 7 years older than Calvin and had inherited his father's business empire early. A rising star. But I knew him for another reason. He liked men. In today's world, alphas dated omegas, men dated women, betas dated betas. But he was an alpha who liked other alphas. He was known for his recklessness when it came to pursuing his desires, using money or power, whatever it took. So why was he here? There was only me, a regular beta, in this room. Then Hunter said, "Don't bother looking around. You're the one I came for." Suddenly, I felt a wave of heat and dizziness. He chuckled and walked toward me. "Ha, this new drug really works. No color, no taste, no side effects. Casper, right? Got the name right? Enjoy yourself." His face twisted as he lunged at me. My head was spinning. I tried with all my strength, but I couldn't fight back. He tugged at my pants. After a few tries, annoyed, he just ripped the waistband apart with a loud tear. His rough hands rubbed against my chest. I felt sick, nauseated to the core, but I couldn't move. He sat on the springy sofa bed and dragged me into his lap, locking me in place. My head hung low. I was barely conscious. In the haze, it felt like someone kicked the door open. I was thrown to the side. The man who had held me got up and began talking to someone. Someone walked over, grabbed my face, turned it from side to side. Then slapped me hard. I couldn't make out his face clearly. But I caught a faint scent of citrus in the air. 5. When I woke up, I was in my own room. There were several bruised needle marks on the back of my hand. I looked in the mirror. Thankfully, the slap mark on my face had faded. Someone at school had requested 2 days of leave for me, so I could return to class tomorrow. Turns out, I'd been unconscious for 2 full days. The mansion was unusually quiet, its owners were likely away. The butler sat at the door. When he saw me come out, he frowned. "You're an adult now. Remember your status, don't bring shame on the family." I nodded. After a shower, I checked my body. There were several bruises, and a burning sting at the nape of my neck. I couldn't see it clearly, so I dabbed some iodine with a cotton swab to disinfect it. After finishing some practice papers, it was already late at night. I shook off my fatigue and walked toward Calvin's room. I tried the door, it was locked from the inside. So, he was home. I knocked. "Calvin, do you need your room tidied up today?" No response. After a while, I turned to leave. Suddenly, the door flew open, and I was yanked inside. The room was filled with the heavy scent of citrus, like someone had spilled an entire bottle of cologne. Calvin pushed me onto the bed, the soft mattress making me dizzy. "Casper, do you know what I was just doing?" I shook my head. "No." I saw his phone screen glowing nearby. I asked, "Were you watching a movie?" He let out a cold chuckle, grabbed my chin, and shoved the phone in front of my face. With a cruel smirk, he said, "I was watching our little mutt, shamelessly trying to seduce someone else." On the screen was a naked body, my body. My eyes were half open, gaze dazed, staring into the camera. Then I lowered my head and offered a kiss to the man beside me. Calvin turned off the video, then slammed me face down into the bed, pressing his knee into my back. "If you don't care about dignity, we still do. You're just a foster kid, and you let Hunter use you like that? Isn't that disgusting?" I shook my head. "No." He grabbed my hair and forced me to look up. His eyes were red with rage. "I only trust what I see. Casper, you once rejected me. I thought it was because you had some kind of pride. But it turns out you already had another man lined up. No wonder people said you were close with Sawyer at school. What, did you get with both brothers?" The more he spoke, the darker his expression became. Eventually, he lost control and squeezed my face, leaving deep finger marks. He stared at me for a long while, then spat bitterly. "You don't get another chance. Then he bit down hard on the back of my neck, right where a beta's undeveloped gland was. The pain was unbearable, like a chunk of flesh was being ripped out. I trembled and blacked out again. 6. I didn't return to school. The school planned to expel me, citing the rumors swirling around. Someone on the forum posted that as a foster child, I wasn't grateful. Instead, I tried to climb the social ladder. After Calvin rejected me, I supposedly went after his younger brother at a party. They attached several photos. Me wiping sweat off Calvin after a game. Me following closely behind him. Me holding an umbrella for him while getting soaked myself. Casper is seriously that shameless? The family took him in, and he acts like a servant just to please people? Of course. He's just a foster kid, and the other is a potential heir. How could he not have intentions? Yeah, and did you see that thin white shirt he wore? Once it got wet, you could see everything. Wow, you're right. He actually has a decent figure. Nah, still just a beta. Sawyer messaged me. Casper, are you okay? I'm sorry I wasn't there that day. I wouldn't have let things go that far. Too many people at school know what happened. Don't come back just yet. Wait until we find out who posted it. Sawyer was my desk mate, a gentle, lively Omega. As a quiet, non-aggressive beta, I was often seated with Omegas. I'd carried his breakfast, shared an umbrella with him. Once, when I had stomach pain during PE, he even helped me ask for leave, and once ran an errand to deliver Calvin's wallet. I was grateful. The other classmates had always been lukewarm toward me, now they treated me like a stranger. I'd already been kicked out of several group chats. I replied, "Thank you." The butler didn't allow me to leave the house. Young master is about to study abroad. This is a critical time. Don't cause trouble. I stayed in my room, watching the hours crawl by. For someone like me, the college entrance exam meant nothing. When Madam found out, she simply waved her hand. Things are busy lately. No time to help you with anything. Just stay home and do some chores. And just like that, I became a full-time housekeeper. Calvin grew even more distant. Ever since he bit me that day, it was like he suddenly realized how filthy I was. I wasn't allowed in his room. I wasn't allowed to touch him. If he came home with friends and saw me from afar, he would take a detour to avoid me. It was unbearable. I spent 3 hours simmering soup in the kitchen. No one took a sip. It cooled on the stove. I ended up drinking it all myself. The other maids and staff treated me like I was contagious. But I'd never wronged any of them. My backpack only had a few finished practice tests. The deadline for college registration had passed. I couldn't go back to school. I didn't understand. Fine. I asked Madam to let me leave. I would distance myself, return to my rightful place in society. I would work hard, repay the kindness shown to me. Her eyes slowly lifted from her newspaper. Eventually, she nodded. 7. I left that grand, cold, and distant mansion, like I'd escaped a bitter dream. I had no idea I was about to enter another kind of suffering. 8. I returned to City C and rented a small basement room. By the time I found a job, it was already September. My high school days felt like a distant, unreachable memory. Sawyer would occasionally text me to check on me. Casper, have you returned to City C yet? Calvin is leaving for abroad tomorrow. Will you see him off? Those messages felt like light leaves falling, but they hit my back bent over greasy dishes in the damp kitchen like heavy stones. I wiped my fingers and typed back. Thank you, Sawyer. I won't go. Goodbye. After nearly half a year of washing dishes, I finally saved a little money. It was enough to keep me afloat at home until next June. I bought a lot of second-hand study materials and enrolled in adult education, burying myself in study at home. No one disturbed me, except the landlord who occasionally checked on the apartment. The day results were released, my heart pounded so hard I thought it would leap out of my throat. The final results were an unexpected joy. I was accepted to the best university in City C. It was average on a national scale, but I was satisfied. That day, it rained heavily, as if the heavens were crying tears of joy for me. Unfortunately, I suddenly came down with a high fever and was bedridden. After drifting in and out of consciousness for most of the day, I realized if I kept going like this, I might faint alone and die here. I forced myself to stand and knocked on a neighbor's door. A frail, pale Omega opened, his belly slightly rounded. He gasped in surprise but quickly helped steady my trembling body. Damon braved the rain to take me to the road to catch a cab, then accompanied me to the hospital. I was very grateful to him. He was gentle, careful, and knew how to take care of someone. "I'm best at taking care of people who have to lie still in bed," Damon said. Damon had a failed marriage. He once knew and married a beta who lost his memory. After marriage, the beta suddenly regained his memories. He was the illegitimate son of a noble family. Injured during a family feud, he ended up in City C, where Damon rescued him. After regaining consciousness, he didn't abandon his ordinary wife but took Damon home. Damon's identity was not recognized by the family. He was a disabled Omega whose scent glands couldn't soothe alphas. As arguments, tears, and accusations increased, Damon could no longer bear it. He once saw his husband sniffing a charming Omega's scent. Damon left a divorce agreement and dragged his suitcase away. Just like me, he returned to where we belonged. To register Damon's daughter Mia's household registration, we planned to get married. The clerk fiddled with the computer for a long time but finally said, "It can't be done." In the end, I borrowed a large sum from Damon. He had someone change the father field on Mia's birth certificate to deceased. At least Mia wouldn't be without legal identity. I studied at university while working part-time. I still made time to visit Mia on weekends. Life was hard for the two of them, so in City C, we kept each other company. It was better than wandering aimlessly without knowing what the future held. In my senior year, I found a well-paying internship. After sharing the good news with Damon and Mia, I invited them out to celebrate. Damon gave me a perfectly ironed shirt as a gift for entering the next stage of my life. After a few beers, my head grew dizzy. Damon finally dragged me home. Luckily, I wasn't late for work the next day. I rubbed my throbbing head. The company was in City C's busiest district, with endless traffic. Although it still lagged far behind City S, I was very content with my situation. My supervisor carefully explained the company's situation. I nodded and listened closely. "By the way, Mr. Yu from headquarters will inspect today. Be careful not to make mistakes. Everyone, stay sharp." He turned to brief the others in the office. "Mr. Yu?" I didn't pay much attention. It was a word that was becoming increasingly unfamiliar to me. In the coffee room, a colleague suddenly spun around and accidentally splashed coffee all over me. Such a shame about the new shirt. Suddenly, a commotion behind me. The colleague didn't go to see what was happening but grabbed some tissues and helped wipe the stains on my waist. Someone parted the crowd and came closer, footsteps slowing nearby. I turned to face the newcomer and gently stopped my colleague's hand still moving to clean me. Calvin had grown even more handsome. His face had lost some baby fat, but his eyes were as unapologetically sharp as before. He looked at me with utter disdain. "Casper, after all these years, you haven't changed at all, still the same." 9. He deliberately lowered his voice on the last words, but I clearly saw his lip movements. Those elegantly shaped thin lips spat out 4 merciless words. "Shameless as ever." My face instantly went pale. Colleagues around whispered, gossiping about the unlucky one publicly humiliated by the boss on her first day. "Excuse me." My supervisor tentatively spoke, but Calvin acted like nothing had happened and turned to check on the business department. I stood there in a daze as colleagues returned to their desks. The liquid on my clothes was sticky and uncomfortable. After explaining, my supervisor let me change clothes before coming back. Just after leaving the office elevator, 2 men in black suits blocked my path. They took me to a 5-star hotel. The driver was a familiar face. The suited men stood guard outside the suite, handed in a few paper bags, then quickly shut the door. After showering and changing, I sat on the bed. Calvin didn't keep me waiting long. He came in, took off his tight suit, loosened his tie, grabbed my hair, and kissed me hard. My eyes closed then opened. He pinched my chin painfully. "Didn't you say you'd serve me for life? So why run off at the first chance?" I said no, that madam had permitted me to leave. He narrowed his eyes and lightly slapped my cheek. "I allowed you to come back. Want to leave? Did you ask me first?" I tried to explain, but he pressed his face to mine and kissed me again. His breath smelled sharply of citrus. I hadn't smelled that scent in a long time, yet I still hated it. He cursed roughly. "Soaking wet in front of so many people, were you trying to seduce someone again? Who's your target this time? The one touching your waist? You really are desperate. No wonder, you can fool around with a beta and not be responsible. You're happy about it, right? Why didn't you say so sooner? Instead of finding those people, why not find me to do it? Serving me in bed isn't serving." I couldn't listen anymore. I reached to cover his mouth, but he turned away. He grabbed and tore open my shirt collar, groping inside. "How many people have you been with? During the years I wasn't here, were you already played out by Hunter?" Before he finished, I slapped him. Calvin's dazed expression turned cold. He grabbed my wrist so hard it felt like he might crush my bones. "You hit me? On what grounds? What, now that you're out of the family, you think you're tough?" "Calvin, I've been transferring money into madam's account all along. That pathetic little income of yours couldn't even buy a suit." After being slapped, Calvin seemed to regain some rationality and stopped cursing. He shut his mouth and ignored my pleas and explanations. He held me down tightly, then suddenly flipped me face down. He murmured, puzzled. "There's no scent at all." His burning lips touched the back of my neck. Feeling something wrong, he pushed aside my black hair and looked closely. He stopped. After a moment, Calvin asked, "Casper, where's your gland scent?" 10. I had to use every ounce of strength just to stop myself from shaking. Hunter had expanded his business empire into City C. The day he gave a lecture at the university, he immediately spotted me in the audience, head lowered. Like he had found something amusing, he ordered someone to drag me to a private room in the club. A black whip landed across my face, and Hunter laughed. "So this is where you've been hiding, how easy it was to find you." His tone was unsettling. I begged him to let me go, telling him I was just an ordinary beta, with nothing special about me. But he shook his head. "You've got a decent body." I only meant to play around, but that guy actually turned against me over a beta. Hunter licked his lips, like a hyena about to pounce. "Now I just have to get a proper taste." His actions were harsh and filled with resentment, like he was taking revenge on someone. He made me stay awake, made me watch what was happening like I was some helpless prey. Eventually, I passed out. When I woke up, everyone was gone. Hunter had satisfied his curiosity and apparently found nothing worth returning for in my beta body. I limped out of the club. The sun outside was bright and warm. But my scent glands had been damaged. They became inflamed, and I developed serious complications. The doctor said the simplest solution was removal. For betas, scent glands weren't essential, just occasionally releasing a faint grassy scent. So I agreed to the surgery. Damon took care of me until I was discharged. I pretended nothing had happened. Returned to school, cancelled my leave, and continued with life. Damon once asked me, "Does it hurt?" I shook my head. Beta glands aren't sensitive. But now, as Calvin's tears fell onto the back of my neck, I felt like they were burning me. So hot, they made me want to cry too. "Calvin, please let me go." He shook his head and gently straightened my torn clothes. Then he pulled me tightly into his arms. "Casper, what happened to your glands? Who did this to you?" I looked down and muttered, "Go ask Sawyer." He had once sent me a photo, Calvin in some distant country, laughing with a group of blonde foreigners, with Sawyer curled up beside him like the perfect match. That's when it hit me. I had walked away from this ridiculous game among the wealthy. I refused to be the pitiful pawn in their noble marriage plans. Sawyer had even sent me a voice message. "Casper, I accidentally mentioned your name today." Calvin totally lost it. "Looks like he still hasn't forgiven you." But I didn't even know what I had done wrong. Calvin didn't touch me again. He just sat there, red-faced, staring at me for a long time. I pretended I couldn't see through his false emotions. Damon texted, asking why I hadn't gotten off work yet. Turns out, it was already dark outside. Calvin didn't stop me. He helped straighten my coat and collar. As I turned to open the door, he clenched his fists behind me and called out loudly, "Casper, I will find out the truth." 11. Damon had dinner ready and invited me to eat with him. On the way home, we passed a colorful little street stall. I bought a hair clip. Mia was thrilled. Her hair was just long enough for tiny pigtails now. Damon watched me quietly for a long time before asking, worried, "Casper, was work okay today?" I shook my head, then gave a small nod. What was the point in talking about it? Seeing I didn't want to speak, Damon didn't press. After dinner, he massaged my shoulders and neck for a while. They often ached since the surgery. The next day, work went smoothly. No one brought up the minor incident from before. After getting off the subway that evening, I was walking home when Calvin suddenly appeared. He jumped out of a Maybach to block my path. "Casper. Casper, you didn't end up with Hunter, did you?" I was speechless. If I could, I'd hand him over to the police myself. Calvin grabbed my shoulders. "Your glands, did he force you?" Sawyer showed me a photo, and I thought. His words came fast, intense. I cut him off. "You never listened to me. I told you before, I didn't seduce him. But you said you only believed your own eyes. You believed Sawyer's photo. Why didn't you just ask me? Is it because you thought I wasn't trustworthy? Or just that I'm so insignificant, not even worth questioning?" Calvin quickly shook his head, flustered. "No. I didn't mean. During your first heat, you forced me to kneel and help you. When I refused, you were humiliated and furious. I was just some lowly servant who dared to reject your generous affection. Isn't that right? But that didn't mean I owed you my whole life. When I left, I didn't take a single thing. So what are you after now? My body? I could buy you a toy. Even Hunter found me boring. I'm sure you'd agree, right? You just haven't personally tried it, so now you're curious." Calvin panicked. No. That's not it. I didn't. I saw you hugging Hunter. I thought. I just snapped. I was angry. I was trying to bring him down, to teach him a lesson. I thought of the way he looked at me back then. Like I was something filthy. That look stabbed straight into my chest. I laughed bitterly. Why didn't you let me leave? Why did you make me give up the college entrance exam? If that accident hadn't happened, I could have gotten into a top university. Instead, I spent countless hours in greasy back kitchens just to earn enough money for a second chance exam. I wanted us to study abroad together, he said. If we went overseas, no one would care about your background. We could be together openly. My voice rose. Be together? What would I do abroad? Keep playing your loyal companion, warming your bed. And when we came back, you'd marry someone from a matching background. Sawyer was one of your parents' picks, wasn't he? He tried to explain. No, it's not like that. My parents just insisted we attend events together. But his voice faded. I'd be like a servant in those old movies. Eventually paired off with another low-ranking person, at your family's command. Still waiting on all of you, raising your children. Even my kid would be expected to serve yours. Just like I once took your punishment for you. Our wishes never mattered. Calvin's eyes widened. Tears slipped silently down his cheeks. It was almost laughable. He bent over in pain, but quickly regained composure. Casper, I'm sorry. But I can't let you go. I graduated early overseas, got into the company, and I'm almost there. I've got proof, Hunter, I stepped back. Calvin, if you force me again, I'll call the police. I'll hate you. I'll kill you if I have to. You and I were never the same. Finally, he dropped his hand. 12. Calvin didn't show up for a long time. My life got back on track. I passed my probation period and started preparing for an engineering certification. Mia passed the interview and was accepted into a great public kindergarten. Damon's clay shop attracted more and more customers, business was thriving. Sometimes, someone would quietly leave flowers or a lunchbox outside his shop. It didn't affect the business, so Damon ignored it. Calvin's mother texted me once, mentioning he had turned down several arranged marriage proposals. Sawyer came to see me too. He wore a wide-brimmed hat that covered half his face, showing only a sharp jawline. He threw down a card and spat out a bitter apology. Casper, I'm sorry. There's $5 million in here, think of it as compensation. Could you please talk to Calvin? He's completely out of control. Sawyer even shivered as he spoke. I splashed coffee on his face. He looked up, stunned. You brought me up on purpose in front of Hunter, didn't you? Just to get his attention. His lips parted, then closed again. It clearly humiliated him to beg someone he once looked down on, but the fact that he could say this at all showed how desperate he was. I took the card and immediately transferred the money into my own account. Later, Sawyer called several times. I declined and blocked him. I never promised him anything. I had already prepared a full file, waiting for the right moment to completely destroy the person I loathed. One afternoon, Damon forwarded me a news article. A CEO was under investigation for a massive financial shortfall. The investigation revealed Hunter had bribed officials during bidding events, laundered money, and evaded taxes. Hunter was arrested. I looked at the compressed file I'd carefully reviewed over and over again and sent it to a newspaper. The next day, media outlets reported Hunter's crimes, drugging students, sexual assault, and organizing illegal sex trade. Sawyer wasn't going to get away either. I had already contacted cyber police and traced the identities of those behind the anonymous bullying posts that fueled my harassment years ago. The two brothers ended up trending together online. In the middle of the noisy crowd, when I saw Hunter, I had already asked Damon to secretly film the entire incident of me being taken away. As Hunter lunged at me like a beast, the audio recorder I'd prepared captured everything clearly. The public outrage grew, but like all things, it eventually faded. On the day of the verdict, the sky was gray, but I felt unusually at peace. Hunter was sentenced to 20 years, the maximum, for multiple crimes. Several victims testified how he had used drugs to trade for sex. Sawyer wasn't involved in the financial crimes. He only got accused of inciting online abuse, so he avoided jail. A tabloid later published photos of him being chased by debt collectors after his property was seized. I made a final payment on the old account and cleared everything. Ever since I first arrived at their house, I quietly kept track of every meal and ride I took. The cook once asked me, "Why do you care?" They don't. I didn't answer, only shook my head. Because one day, these so-called gifts would be used against me. Once, I collected water bottles in a factory. A week later, an old scavenger smashed my head open with a rock. I ate an orange that belonged to my gambling-addicted brother. He sold me to a strange household soon after. They gave me food and shelter, sure, but they thought that was worth my entire life. I didn't want my dignity to always kneel at someone's feet, be it the housekeeper, the driver, the lady of the house, or Calvin. None of them had the right to treat me like I owed them forever. One day, Calvin called. He didn't say anything except my name, his voice low and shaky. We didn't see each other again for months. By then, I had received my intermediate certification. As I walked down the street, feeling light and free, Calvin called my name from behind. He had undergone surgery to remove his glands. His mother had nearly choked him in rage. He said, "Casper, brother. Now we're the same. From now on, let me be your reader, your servant, your housekeeper. It's okay if you won't forgive me. I just want to be your friend." He crouched down and tied my shoelaces, just like I used to do for him. The bitter citrus scent I hated was gone. A gentle breeze blew by. I didn't look at him. For the first time since I was born, warm sunlight reached my heart.